We went on a Mediterranean cruise, and Marseille was one of the stops on our cruise. We arrived on a rainy day, so I was glad that I had scheduled a tour guide to drive us around to our different destinations. We began our tour at Monument à Mort de l'Armée d'Orient, or Monument to the Dead of the Army of the Orient. The monument was built in 1924 as part of a competition to honor soldiers and sailors who had died in other lands. It was designed by Bouge de Ron Gaston Castel as a portico in the sky. The female figures symbolize heroism. This monument is right by the sea and afforded a great view of the island of If and Chateau d'If. I was really looking forward to visiting Chateau d'If because I love the book The Count of Monte Cristo, but because the weather was bad and the water was choppy, no boats were going to If that day. When the weather is good, Chateau d'If is open beginning at 10 in the morning. There are a couple companies that provide boat rides from Vieux-Port, the old port of Marseille, to the island of If. Visiting Chateau d'If costs €7. The round-trip boat ride to access the island is about €11. The Notre Dame de la Garde Basilica was our next stop. Our tour guide drove us to this church on the hill, which overlooks Marseille with spectacular views. She is nicknamed the Good Mother in Marseille. This church is visible from all over the city. It is the most visited monument in Marseille. The church was built beginning in 1853 and completed in 1864. It was designed by Henri Jacques Esperandeu at the age of 23. This church has 3 bells, including the bell nicknamed Marie Josephine, which weighs more than 8 tons. The church is open 7 days a week, beginning at 7 a.m. and closing at 6 p.m. It is free to enter. When we arrived, Mass was starting, so we were not able to go inside the basilica or the crypt. These are closed during Mass or special celebrations. We were able to walk around outside as well as access the roof of the building with an elevator. The statue of the Virgin Mary, holding her son Jesus on top of the church, faces the sea as if welcoming guests who arrive in Marseille. The statue is hollow inside, except for a staircase that visitors used to be able to climb to look out through the Virgin's eyes. Unfortunately, that staircase is now closed to the public. In September 2023, Pope Francis visited Notre Dame de la Garde and presided over a silent moment of prayer at the basilica, and at a moment of remembrance at the memorial dedicated to sailors and migrants lost at sea, which is outside the basilica at one of the viewpoints. Next, our tour guide took us to see St. Victor Abbey, which was founded in the 5th century. We happened to arrive when the bells were ringing. We went inside, but Mass was being held, so we didn't stay long. We visited the Chapel of the Holy Sacrament, which contains a 5th century stone altar. I wish we could have visited the crypts, because I've heard that they are stunning. That will have to wait until our next visit to Marseille. You can admire the view of Vieux-Port from outside the basilica. The basilica is free to enter, but the crypts cost €2. The abbey is right next to the Four des Novettes, which is the oldest bakery in Marseille. It has been operating and family-owned since 1781. It is the most famous for its chateaux, which we were given a sample of. We also purchased some cookies while we were there. Our next stop was at the Palais Longchamp Monument, which was created in 1839 to celebrate the construction of the Canal of Marseille, which brought water from the river Durance to Marseille. The building took 30 years to complete. It was designed by architect Henri Jacques Esperandu, the same architect that designed the Notre Dame de la Garde Basilica. It opened in 1869. It used to contain a zoo on its grounds, but the zoo was closed in 1987. Some of the cages and pavilions used for the zoo are still in the Parc Longchamp. In fact, a children's theater occupies what used to be the giraffe cage. Two museums, the Museum of Fine Arts and the Natural History Museum, are in the left and right wings of the palace. Both of the museums are free to enter. The beautiful fountain, Chateau d'Eau, flows with completely recycled water. We walked up the stone staircase beside the fountain and admired the sculptures. Our tour guide told us that before the arrival of water in Marseille, many people suffered and died from epidemics. The water that this monument celebrates was truly life-saving to the people of Marseille, and even today, Marseille receives 2/3 of their water supply from the river Durance. Our tour guide dropped us off near the Old Port to do some shopping, and we discovered a very good crepe place called Au Bar à Crepes. The crepes were just €4 each, and you could choose from a wide range of fillings. This was a great way to end our tour. Our tour guide drove us back to the cruise ship by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Despite the rain, we enjoyed our time in Marseille. If I could have only visited Chateau d'If, I would have considered my day to be perfect. Still, despite the rain, Marseille was a beautiful city to visit.